Ketamine Carl. That was beautiful, guys. That was really beautiful.
Welcome.
Welcome to the At Last podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Eaves. Joining me live from the Fairhaven Studios in Bellingham, Washington today are Alex Eaves,
Yes,
Eichen Muller, and Josh, Father Bosch John Hughes.
Father Bosch John.
The incredible trio that makes up Bellingham's electro witch pop, formerly duo, now it's a trio, Laughingstock. Okay. And you guys are both from very musical backgrounds. Actually, all three of you are from extremely musical backgrounds. You know, your grandfather used to play for an orchestra, a really famous big like swing band, right? Or and so he, you know, and that was one of his.
Not my grandfather. My great grandfather, my great uncle.
Great uncle.
Were both conductors in the 20s and played for like the President's Ball and stuff like that.
Wow.
I have my great grandfather. I have one of his like an album of his band playing on vinyl.
Wow.
His name's Howard Lannon, and then my grandfather wrote his father's memoir, which is Howard, and that the memoir is in the Library of Congress.
Howard Lannon.
Okay.
Damn, and look at you.
Yeah.
That's what are you doing?
Cool.
And the Lester Lannon Orchestra, right? Howard
Lester was my grandfather's brother.
Right. Okay.
So my great uncle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we write a song with Lester Lane?
That's a good name. That's a good
Lester
Lester
Lannon. Yeah.
Great name.
Very like a big time bandy name. Lester Lannon.
Yeah.
Lester Lannon.
Yes. And then Eichen, of course, your father is a sound engineer. Or what was his back? I mean,
My father grew up in Spokane.
Okay.
It was kind of in the beginning of the grunge punk scene in Spokane that kind of came out in the 80s, and so he was in that playing with lots of bands, and so he was playing music and was like, but then he kind of had to grow out of that and get a job.
Right.
But he's always been super into music and leading influence in that, and then kind of when I entered high school, he opened up a record label. It was made to produce the soundtrack for a movie about that Spokane punk scene.
Wow.
And then they were like, let's just keep doing this. And
Right.
so
That's cool because that really was the birth of the grunge movie, here in Washington.
yeah.
And that's where it really got its roots, and of course took off with Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like extreme waves of music that just happened so quick and still so good to this day. I mean, it's really timeless. And of course, Josh, his father, actually played keyboard in a band called
The Shakers.
The Shakers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a New Mexico new wave bands from the 80s.
They're really
Yeah.
pushing the genre
Yeah.
forward.
They were.
I can't believe that your dad knew them.
Yeah, that's wild.
But that was
Sitting
like, I
by the
love
fire.
the
He's like, yeah,
Shakers.
my dad was in the Shakers. Oh yeah, he used to see the
Ah,
Shakers.
the
and
Shakers,
stuff.
of
Yeah.
course. I remember the
Yeah.
Shakers. Yeah, and the
stuff.
Movers.
How could you forget?
Kevin Hughes, Wait Until Dark, best solo album out of New Mexico.
Go check it out. Yeah.
Objectively.
1991.
Objectively. Yeah. So you guys are all, I mean, you could say it's even your birth, like it's in your blood to make music.
Totally.
And to be around it and to, and I think that's probably like did your father make you take lessons, or did you sort of gravitate towards it naturally?
I just kind of gravitated more naturally to music. I took guitar lessons for a year when I was in kindergarten.
Wasn't
No,
feeling
I was
it?
older than that, and it wasn't for me. And then my dad has a sick studio in our house that's like his office space, but also works as a music studio. And so I just started going in there and messing around on the piano and
Right.
stuff. And I took up drums more on my own because my dad plays keyboard and guitar, but I was just more interested in drums too. So
Right.
he didn't make me do it, but he definitely encouraged me to
Right.
keep going with taking drum lessons.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I was the opposite. I tried piano and I was like, I can't do this. And then I took my guitar lesson. I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah, I did say I started with piano lessons. That's how I first started. And then we had to learn guitar in elementary school, and so then I started wanting to learn these songs to guitar, and then eventually my lessons, it was the same teacher, it just kind of shifted over.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so weird to me because it's piano for me is so nice and accessible because if you know nothing about it, you get you still know how to play it, and it's you can eventually
Yeah.
get.
It's
to
just the
point
same
where
thing
you're okay.
repeated over and over
Yeah,
and over and over.
whereas
and over.
guitar, if you just gave me a guitar for a year and no instruction, I'm sure I'd come up with cool shit, but it wouldn't be I don't know.
Really the same. Yeah, well, I think that's what it was. And then you, I mean, growing up, you basically started with guitar lessons.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I started when I was 7. It was kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of learning it without purpose though. Like I don't think I really sort of realized that like it was a tool for like making music too, not just like playing other people's music in a way.
Right.
So I really like put it down. I stopped playing for a couple years like in high school, and when I did my senior project and recorded my first EP, like I took it back up just because I knew that it was something that I could like add to my tracks like very easily and record like really easily.
Right.
And that was sort of the impetus of me actually like starting to play it more seriously. And when I got to college, like, you know, wanting to learn Beatles songs and things like that was kind of the drive to pick it back up and like actually become what I feel like I actually understand the guitar now.
Absolutely.
Where before I didn't really.
It's interesting how many people start with Beatles songs because you have songs that are very simple sort of to learn in certain ways, but they're also very complex under the surface.
Yeah.
And so it can teach you a lot about music, just knowing their melodies, knowing how they harmonize, because it's something that comes across as this clean and simple sound, but there's so much more to it. And it's like I feel like it teaches you, even just listening to the music, the harmonies, what they're doing musically. It's just, it's very masterful.
Yeah, I think you have to credit that to George Martin.
Yes.
He just knew music theory inside and out, and he wrote so many of their parts that are just amazing, you know, musical pieces because he understood the classical like tenets of harmony and things like that, and they were able to use that in their music to create something that people hadn't heard before.
It shows you how important outside influence, especially a producer, and you guys do a lot of the production on the tracks, right? It's a sort of a collaboration between you two, and then Josh, you have the drum and the keyboard talent, and then he is also an expert on GarageBand. Shout out to Josh, he is on GarageBand.
9.
GarageBand 9. Holler at me. Do you think it's good what they've done with stuff like GarageBand, where you can sort of just plug and play immediately? And
it depends.
Yeah, I mean,
depends how you look at it.
The thing of like with music and technology now, it's like it's so accessible, and anybody can kind of pick it up.
Yeah.
So I think it's always a good thing,
right?
You know? Granted, you get a lot of shitty music that comes
Exactly.
you have everyone and their mother is a producer now.
Everyone's a rapper.
Who makes everyone's a rapper and everyone makes shitty beats, and like that's like how that joke of like check out my SoundCloud comes out, because like there's a billion terrible SoundClouds out there.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to make, but even when it's shitty, it's still exciting.
Right.
I mean, there's no harm in it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's nothing like.
Yeah.
And then when it's good, it can be really good. Like I always use the reference point that like Grimes recorded like all of Visions on GarageBand.
Oh, see, that's
like,
I love stories like that. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And now she produces all her own stuff, and she's like a great producer. But the fact that she had those musical chops while just understanding like GarageBand.
What comes down to like my philosophy is always like, equipment it can be helpful, definitely, and like it improves things, but at the end of the day, equipment, saying you need more equipment is just an excuse. You need better equipment is just an excuse. I mean, like we're just talking about the Beatles. Like if they recorded that all with the bass plugins given to you in GarageBand, it would still be incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
seriously.
If the songs are good, if the creativity's there, then I mean, yeah.
In some ways, like the tools we have now are so ubiquitous. They're cheap, and they're probably better than we've kind of ever seen before in music. Like if someone with $200 and a laptop can, you know, buy an interface and plug their guitar in and start making professional quality recordings.
Damn, that's almost straight out of a quote of one of those masterclass promos from Deadmau 5.
Oh,
Dead
really?
Mouse. He's like, some kid with a laptop and a keyboard can make trance
Oh, dude,
beats.
yeah. No, I've seen that ad on YouTube like a dozen times.
I actually wrote the ad.
You are
for him.
Dead Mouse.
I am Dead Mouse.
I am the man behind the mask.
He's like the robotic Turk, and
What
I
that
live
Dead
inside
Mouse
him.
Hey, you can't say that kind of shit, man.
Yeah, I can. What's wrong with saying robotic Turk?
I don't know. Turk just sounds like a slur to me.
But it's not.
You shorten anything, it makes it sound like a slur.
Not when it's Dead Mouse.
We're going to take a quick break.
Pizza
and
break.
we will be back.
Is there pizza on the way?
Love you. Okay, so when we left off, we were talking about the anecdote of the Mechanical Turk.
Yeah. So, so a guy built what he said was a robot, and people believed him. And what he said it could do was play chess, and so people would play it, and it would beat them, and things like that. And people found out that it was just a guy in a suit that was made to look like a robot.
It was like wooden, right?
Yeah, I
think
think
it's like a wooden.
Yeah.
People
So-
were really fucking dumb
Yeah.
back then.
Well, the interesting thing about it is that even when people found out that it was a hoax, they still went to go see
Yeah.
it. Like,
Oh.
yeah,
I mean, that'd
Interesting.
be. I'd see that.
yeah. I
A
mean,
guy in a wooden suit beating
it's-
a chest.
when did and how did people when did people become aware of robots like as a concept?
I feel like the Russians. I read somewhere that the Russians first had the idea for them,
Like-
and that's where the word comes from. Like the word robot comes from a Russian word.
well, I mean, Greeks had like the idea of like automatons and stuff like that, like
Right.
statues that could move on their own and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. I mean, that's not quite a robot,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah, I mean that's the
Yeah.
basis for it.
Right.
yeah.
That's interesting though that when they found out it was a hoax, they still were intrigued to see
Yeah.
the mechanical. And why did he call it? Why did he call it the mechanical Turk?
I think it looked like a
Was-
Turk,
Uh,
like a Turkish person, like someone from the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. But see that now that we found out that Kanye is a hoax, are we still gonna go see him in concert? Too soon?
Kanye
Is
is
it
a
too soon?
hoax.
Kanye's
weird.
Kanye's not. I mean, I won't listen to like artists' albums when they leak, but I'll listen to Kanye's album if it leaks.
If it leaks.
And I won't feel bad.
So out of respect, you won't like.
I'll listen to anyone's album when it leaks.
You will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
But I also will buy albums from people that I really
Mm.
like.
That's true.
To
Like,
support
I still
them.
need to buy the Mount Erie
Yeah.
album because I can't just say Real Death and like
Yeah.
not buy that album.
But
You
like
have to
my
give
thing
him
with like
money.
leaking is like it doesn't hurt them at all.
Right. Mount
No.
Erie is an interesting
It
example. So
might.
he was the
Yeah.
guy who he had the child with a woman, right? Is his wife?
Yeah,
Josh
his
knows more
wife.
about it than I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. So explain
Yeah.
Mount Erie to people who might not know.
Yeah, man. He's a really good. This is gonna get sad. Well, he's a really good musician from Anacortes, actually, so just like an hour south of here, named after Mount Erie, which is the actual little like peak there. But he like originally did music under the Microphones, which is really really good. So the Glow Part 2 is like one of my favorite albums. But yeah, his wife like was I don't want to like butcher it, but I think she was diagnosed with some, I don't know what type of cancer, but like a year or two ago, and he like put up a GoFundMe page for it and stuff, and she like did her own music too, and like the GoFundMe went like really successfully and stuff, but then like her like cancer treatments didn't really work, and then she ended up dying like about, I don't know, probably like 6 months ago, maybe probably longer than that, I don't know. But then he just like came out with an album about that, pretty much, that like he recorded
Right.
in his wife's old bedroom, like with
Oh
her,
my God.
with her own instruments.
Yeah.
Wow.
The room that she died in. right?
Yeah, that's it. The room that she died in.
Oh my God. What is that album called?
It's called A Crow Looked at Me. It's like the saddest album I've ever
Wow.
listened to.
Yeah.
I've only
Yeah.
listened to it all the way through once
That's
because I
insane.
can't like will
It's worth
myself.
it.
It's
I
worth
mean-
it.
And so
but
that energy transfers over into
Yeah.
the album itself.
it's
Totally.
weird though because it's like
The album is like the most stripped down thing ever. It's just it's like
Yeah.
so raw and just like
Stripped
Yeah.
down as
Yeah.
in it's just
like instrumentally.
yeah. It's just like very very basic
scary.
instrumental.
so not a lot of reverb or crazy effects or anything.
There's a fair amount of reverb on
Yeah.
it, but it's like just a lot of guitar and like
And,
some
like-
piano and
And the
stuff.
vocals are
Yeah.
very like, you know, he's not
Hush.
like belting or anything. He just kind of like it feels like he's not like talking, but it kind of just feels like he's talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like you're just getting a gleam into his life.
Yeah.
That's
But
what I
it's- yeah.
think is so interesting about music is it's sort of a way to convey a message, a way of having a conversation. And you talk to people who feel a certain way about a song. There's certain songs you remember, and you remember
Yeah.
the way that they make you feel, and they'll give you a nostalgia for a place that you've
Mhm.
never known, or they'll just make you set you alight inside. That's what's so beautiful about music. There's really not a lot of mediums that can do that. And especially not a lot of mediums that can do that the way music can, because it's one of the most human things we can do is to make music, is to just make beautiful vibrations. And have you seen the documentary Alive Inside?
Yeah.
No.
Really good,
I've
right?
heard of it.
So it's in association with Oliver Sacks, and he's a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. He passed away.
Passed
a few years
away.
ago, I
Rest
think.
in peace to a real man.
Yeah.
But basically, what they found out is that they took all these people with really, really bad cases of dementia and Alzheimer's and horrible detrimental mental diseases, and what they found is that when you play music from their time period that they like or that they recognize, it triggers something in their brain that cuts through the dementia, and their identity is restored to themselves through the music. And so it's one of the most beautiful documentaries I've ever seen. They still don't know how this works, but there's something about music that's able to break through the fog of years of not knowing who you are.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's like just some kind of association with it, because like
Yeah.
like a lot of my favorite albums I like because it like takes me to a very specific place where I either like first heard it or where I like distinctly remember listening to it. You know,
Yeah.
like
Right.
like almost all of my favorite albums I could tell you like
Yeah.
where I was in my life kind of
Mhm.
when I first heard it.
Totally.
And so what is there an overall emotion that you guys are here's a very typical radio question. So guys, what are you going to do on this album anyway? What kind of emotion are you going for here anyway, guys? But is there sort of an emotion or a driving force or a message? For instance, David Albarn in the most recent Gorillaz album said that it was trying to have a conversation between the older generation and the younger generation because he feels like they're not talking anymore. So is there anything like that for this album?
The style.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah.
We have this cool blend I think right now going on of like quirky stories from an outside perspective and then like very like inward thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
they bounce off each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. Like, you know, the first song on the record is about like a mentally ill guy who like gets out of like, I guess I don't want to say like the asylum, maybe that's kind of fucked up.
Hospital,
Yeah,
maybe?
the hospital, the institution where he's at, and he's like seems like he's getting better, and then like the person who is kind of responsible for like helping him get better ends up like getting beaten up by him because he stops taking his meds.
Oh.
And so like that's what that song is about. And but like
What is that one called?
It's called Terry Sharper.
Terry Sharper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Terry Sharper, the Ballad of Terry Sharper.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
But then like conversely, like I've never experienced that. I mean, but conversely, like there is like a very personal love song that like,
Right.
I wrote after meeting my new girlfriend. And
There's a lot of love songs on the album.
There's a lot of
There's a
Well,
lot.
it's in the air, guys.
Yeah.
There's love songs, and then there's like heartbreak. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Do we have a
thing, love's
breakup song
theme.
on this album? We were all in relationships. There's, like,
Moving, right?
I mean, that's not even like a break.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it is.
Yeah.
But that's not like really. That's kind of like a.
So like in the wake of the breakup.
Yeah, it's kind of like a
It's kind
retrospective.
of well, I mean, because like 7488 is about a lot of things, but that
Totally.
kind of
True.
comes into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think honestly, if there was one theme, like I think love is a pretty
Yeah.
common thing. I mean, in all music, honestly, but like
Right.
in what we've been writing, I
Mhm.
think, and like not necessarily just romantic love,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of all facets
Yeah.
of what that is.
Yeah.
You know.
You guys have a lot of songs in your solo music which are deal with pretty extreme concepts of loss and grief and stuff like that, but then you also have a lot of really fun songs, and then Motorboat is one of those sort of fantastical songs you were talking about where it's just a false narrative of meeting a girl at a party who came into town on a motorboat. Who is that? There's always that moment. I think everyone's had this at a party where you show up and it doesn't just have to be a guy, but in this particular case it is, and you show up and there's just someone who is sort of the spotlight goes around. It's that real
Yeah.
stereotypical thing. The spotlight
Yeah.
goes around them, and the rest of the party just kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you're like, who is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I want to
Yeah.
introduce me
That's
to that.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Motorboat, for that, that's the intro to this show, actually, is Motorboat. That's where we play in it. And so if you go, there's a link to the SoundCloud in the description if you guys want to listen to it in case you didn't catch it. But I love that song because, she left town on a motorboat. And then you have, yeah. But I love it because it's this story about a girl who comes in town on a motorboat. And then, you never really get to know anything about her. And so she just remains this enigma. And then she just leaves on a motorboat. She just hops back on and leaves. And you, it's sort of like, the great white buffalo. Everyone has a great white buffalo,
Yeah.
the one
Yeah.
that got away. And
Yeah.
so she's like the physical embodiment of that, of, she shows up and you're just you want to know more about her, but it's impossible for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I've had so many moments like that where you just, I wonder what would have happened if
Yeah.
I got to talk to
Yeah.
that person.
I mean, yeah, Motorboat was like cool because I didn't really have much of a hand in writing that. It was mainly
these
the
two.
two of them. But like,
I think the lyrics itself is probably mostly Icon.
yeah,
honestly.
but I just like the lyrics to it, like it's when we wrote that, like the goal was like it's kind of just gonna be like a simple kind of goofy pop song, and that's what it is. But like, and there's not many lyrics, but I think that's you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like I think that's exactly what we're trying to convey, and I think that's the goal with like a lot of our songs is like little 3-minute pop songs, some simple words and stuff that might teach you things about life.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that the chorus and the harmonizations and the melody, like it just all comes together so perfect. It's such a fun upbeat song. It reminds me a lot, actually, it's of the Kinks, some of the Kinks stuff. The rolling drum beat and the really upbeat organ and really cool rock chords and so. I thought it was just such a cool ballad to have. And are you going to put it on the upcoming record? Or are you going to include it? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's sort of released as a single first, and then now it's going to be released. With
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Lead single.
Lead single. Okay, so how many tracks do you have on the record?
11.
11
right
tracks.
now.
Okay.
It might become
12 if Ketamine Carl is on it.
Yeah.
That's the one we started the podcast with, by the way. Ketamine Carl. So that's beautiful. Is there any particular track which you guys have gravitated towards as you think you either had the most fun working on? I noticed that you guys were jamming earlier on one, which is a riff that you wrote a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And how much does that happen where you're kicking, or like you've written something and then haven't added any words to it, haven't showed it to anyone, and then when you finally do, people have an idea, or maybe you have a better idea.
That's kind of like most of the time what
Yeah.
happens. I feel like
Right.
like with that song, I had written. I don't know if I really wrote the chords. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I really like wrote the chords, but I like had the chords that I wanted to use, and like I had some transitions into different keys and stuff, and we were just like jamming, and I started playing it, and Josh started playing the drums, and I started playing some guitar over it, and that just was the beginning of it.
That's
And,
amazing.
yeah.
It makes you wonder, because you always have so many riffs kicking around your head, or unwritten songs kicking around in your head. It makes you wonder with people, like Kurt Cobain, who didn't get to live out their full potential, and like how many songs did they have that they were working on that no one will ever hear now.
Seriously.
Hey, my favorite song that Ian Curtis from Joy Division ever wrote is Ceremony, which was never recorded before he died, and so it was the first New Order song, which is Joy Division minus Ian Curtis, but I think it's the best song he ever wrote, and he never got to actually record it and sing it.
Fuck
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really
I didn't know that New Order was.
Yeah, New
Joy
Order is
Division.
literally Joy Division minus Ian Curtis.
Wow. That's like Real Love. Have you guys heard Real Love by the Beatles? It was the last track that John ever laid down vocals on, basically.
Dang.
And then that's all they had was him playing a guitar and then vocals in the booth. And then, of course, he was shot and killed. And then
Damn.
so the rest of the Beatles
Yeah.
got together and like, we'll finish it. We'll put the piano on. We'll put, bass. We'll do everything. And then so if you listen to Real Love by the Beatles, it's really good because it's something so eerie about the last song that artists are able to record.
Yeah.
It's like they know. It's almost like they know. Like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding is just such a wistful, song, and just sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away, and it's sort of like a send-off for him.
Yeah, like on that note, like Black Star.
Oh my god.
Like,
tell us more about that.
Well, just like like I mean,
Right.
like
For those of you who don't know, it's a David Bowie's last studio album that he was able to complete.
and like just that, like he literally. I mean, you say like it seems like the new, but he did know.
Right.
Like, he wrote. He was like, "I'm going.
I'm gonna die.
And I don't actually know about this, but with Leonard Cohen, he just released an album right before he died.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't as aware, I don't think.
But maybe it's like I gotta finish this up.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, like,
Yeah,
is
but
a
like,
good swan
but
song
with like David Bowie, like
record.
it came out and people loved it, and then he died, and then it just got this whole new meaning.
Right.
It kind of like dawned on people like this was like a farewell.
Yeah, this is
Like-
it. This is the last one.
Like this was in that there was intention behind that.
Right. Because he sort of did have the sense, he knew he was
Yeah.
dying, so it was like in a rush to complete
Yeah.
it. And it's sort of, on the new, on the new Tribe Called Quest record, they had a completely different title for the album, and then of course Phife Dawg passed away, and so now the album is called Thank You for Your Service, and we'll take it from
what
here.
an album!
Oh, incredible album!
Yeah.
The way they're able to stay relevant after so many years and stay current, and just their sound is
It's really one of like the best like comeback albums I've heard in a long time.
I think so too.
Like
For that style too, like I don't know, I would envision like a rap group from the '90s coming back now and just sounding really outdated.
Yeah.
But, like that album sounds so fresh. This like
Yeah.
It's
right
crazy.
now.
dude, Melatonin is a smacker
Mel-
for the
yeah.
ages.
Yes. It's amazing artists that are able to do that, because it's not easy to do. To stay any profession you have, if you're away for a certain number of years, let's say 5 or 10 years, and then you try and come back and do whatever it is. If you're a bricklayer and you haven't laid bricks in 5 years, it's gonna be a little rusty when you come back. But then you have people like Axl Rose, is the long anticipated return, and it's shit. It's awful.
Terrible.
Chinese Democracy was an absolute failure.
Oh,
And
God.
some of the anecdotes from that are just atrocious. Like constructing a chicken coop in the studio and making his lead guitarist perform from inside the chicken coop, and like running over demo tapes that they had in front of the studio executives, and
Oh God.
just doing crazy. I mean, Axl Rose type shit. But it's so interesting when people can come back from that delay.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because I actually can't record guitar unless I'm in a chicken coop.
That's your methodology. Yeah.
I just watch you.
Josh watches.
I
You
lock
throw
you
feet
in,
at
man.
me.
Yeah. From outside the chicken coop.
Play.
Play. Yeah. So, but and what do you guys think of the new Gorillaz record? Because that's Damon Albarn
okay.
was away for a long
yeah,
time too.
I was actually gonna bring that up since
Yeah.
you're talking about the comebacks and stuff. Like, I love the Gorillaz, but I don't like that.
Not so
album.
much,
I
yeah.
don't like it.
I
Like,
will say this: when Plastic Beach came out, I was
Yeah.
not sold on it. But
Really?
but the more I listened to it, I was like, oh shit,
that's
this is really
fair.
good.
I understand that, and I think Gorillaz songs like have a good tendency to like grow on you with
Right.
time, but I don't know. I don't really like the album too
Right.
much. It's like too feature heavy for
Yeah.
me, and
Right,
it just
right.
feels like Damon Albarn's part on the record is not as prominent as it is with the other Gorillaz.
Right.
albums. And it
Right.
kind of, I don't know, like their first 3 albums for me are just like a amazing trio of records. Like if that was all they ever put out, they'd leave just, I mean, they'll still leave like an amazing legacy, but I don't know, this album kind of
Right.
dwindled that a little bit.
Well,
for
I
me.
was sort of expecting, because his solo album, he had these insane songs where he would talk about, the place where he comes from and grew up in this rainy, overcast setting and concrete structures. And, it's very much harkens back to his original compositions with Blur, where he's like Park Life, it's an ode to the
Blur's sick.
yeah, it's an ode to sort of the dystopian London society of
Yeah.
just consume, go to work, shut your mouth,
Yeah.
drop your kids off at your private schools, pick them up, turn them into versions of you to replace yourself.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of they were broaching that subject all the way back then, and so he has always been prodding, and I feel like with the most recent record, maybe I'll listen to it some more and get more of a sense, but it did feel sort of feature heavy, like you said.
There's good ideas on it and stuff, but like
Yeah.
also, speaking of comebacks, his the latest Blur album that came, that's a sick album. I like that a lot. That was a sick comeback. I think,
and his
but-
solo Everyday Robots. if you
Yeah,
listen to
that's a cool
really
album.
good. But not to talk too much about the Gorillaz and getting back more to your album, is there? I mean, how far away is it from completion?
I think we also, we wanna finish this project and have it out there for people to, to hopefully have the impact their life somehow, and then to move forward onto bigger and better.
Yeah.
On to the next project.
So
Yeah.
hopefully, I would say I'd hope to have the album ready to be put out by the time fall comes around.
Yeah. And I think it would kind of kill it in a way to spend too much time on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so,
It wouldn't be as relevant to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, especially where we are too as musicians. I
Yeah.
think it's just a good point to just record
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
get it out.
yeah. Like this batch of songs, they seem like they go together.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
definitely. It wouldn't make sense to
So it feels like a project.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's we're starting to get more conceptual with it, and like we've laid out kind of how we want the side A and side B to work, and ideas for making a one continuous music video for all of side A.
That's
because
nice,
and like
yeah.
intertwining all the characters
Yeah.
and stories with each other. So
That would be cool.
your
Yeah.
casket idea just
Yeah, that would be awesome. And that's sort of like with Green Day when they did American Idiot.
Mhm.
You know, it's a very very tied in heavily with the war and what was happening at the time. And we went back and watched that the other day, but some of the music videos they did is just insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously.
like that, what they were able to accomplish, and especially to be being that vocal during such a time of strife and where we really didn't know, or the American public really didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Green Day. American Idiot is amazing.
That
That's
album
a
is sick.
Masterpiece.
Like,
Yeah.
When I was, I don't know, when that came out, how old were we?
Like 9.
Yeah.
8.
I remember liking it just for the music.
Yeah.
You know.
And now
thinking
it's
it was
like you
cool.
listen to the words and I'm like, oh,
Like, yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be an American Idiot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Jesus of Suburbia is a
yeah.
banger.
Yeah.
Remember that shit.
And like
is
even that what a
wild.
title.
Yeah, Jesus
Like-
Suburbia. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm the son of rage and love. The Jesus
Well,
of Suburbia.
Yeah, I have that album on vinyl, and I didn't really realize this until I like saw it, but the first half of the album is Rage, and the second half is Love. Like on the disc there's like a sticker on it. And on the first
Oh.
disc it says Rage, and on the second disc it says Love.
That's some of like my favorite moments in music because like it's one of those things that that brings the value of listening to an album all the way through,
Totally.
and not just songs. And I love that when, you know, like with Abbey Road, the medley part, like you listen to that all the way through, it's completely different than just listening to Polythene Pam on its own.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of doing that on our side A, in that the first 4 songs all kind of bleed together. Yeah.
That's something I feel like people don't really do a lot anymore, is just listen to an album all the way through.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I guess you have as much music as you want at your fingertips right now. So I guess people don't really feel the need to do it anymore. But it is, I think, for albums, I mean, I can't imagine not listening to Demon Days or all the way through from beginning to end, or, you know, Sgt. Pepper's or any Beatles album, because there's such a rich narrative and everything leads and bleeds into the next. And I guess it was recorded that way to be consumed on, you know, phonograph or something.
Yeah.
So which you didn't have the choice of skipping around.
Yeah.
So you literally had to let it go. And so it was designed, and now I feel like a lot of albums are designed not to do that, to just have standout singles. And
It's a shame because it allows for so much more filler material.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
people just like, you know, if you're making music with the intention that your listener is going to have to listen through the whole thing, I think people would make better quality.
Are you saying you have
Totally.
beef with 34 songs that Future put out 2 months ago?
He put out 34 songs.
Put out 2 albums in a week, and each of them had 17 songs.
Wow. Okay, so this is, yeah. Wow, this is amazing. So, okay, I did want to talk about trap music because there's a lot of people
Yeah.
who really, really dislike trap music. I feel like
Hey, that's me.
yes, okay,
I'll
that's fair. That's fair. I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest, but I do like some of it. I feel like there's probably like Venn diagrams out there in the world. You know, there's like country, trap, like a bunch of just a bunch of Venn diagrams. But you guys particularly enjoy trap
Young
music.
Thug is one of
Yeah.
my favorite artists of all time.
Okay, so what is it
That's
about
so
trap?
fun.
Like, what is?
I mean,
So it's
I was not expecting to get into this, but I don't know. Do you want to?
So I mean, I think something about it is like, I mean, it really is. A lot of it is just coming from, you know, one city. Like a lot of it's just kind of coming from Atlanta, and it's this really cool cultural lens you have into, you know, what those people are going through and how they're living or what they've gone through or whatever. And I think it's the kind of thing where, you know, kind of going back to how we were talking about how it's so easy for everyone to record nowadays. It's like there is kind of so much coming out that I think it's kind of pushing all the artists to be better in some ways. And so for me, like when a project comes out of that like stands out, it like stands out even more.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean, there's a
fucking-
different culture behind it too, you know,
Mhm.
because I mean, like going back to Future, like you think about like just dropping mixtapes and stuff, and like I think a lot of that kind of music isn't is written from a different perspective, where it's not like this is going to be a song you're going to listen to in like 10, 20 years. Like, it's like this is going to be a mixtape, comes out, listen to it once, you'll maybe enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, you might come back to a few things, but that's kind of the intent of it, I think. And a lot of trap music, I think, does that really well.
Yeah, it's kind of made to be disposable in a way.
Yeah, but
Kind of. I mean, not like, I don't think anyone's making this like, oh, I only want you to listen to this for 2 weeks and then stop.
I think it's
throw it away.
It's like very easily digestible, I think.
Yeah. Well, and then I think that kind of nature of it, if it's done really well, then allows them to get across whatever message they're trying to, kind of in the best way that they can, if it is accessible in that sense.
Do you think that culture makes the artist, or that artist makes the culture?
It's got to be some way.
Migos makes the culture.
Migos invented Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be, obviously, like, I think humans are the first step. Like, just like without human activity, there is kind of no culture. So I think, whatever society is living, through their own natural processes of living in that society, they develop values, and then their art reflects that, and then the art changes the way that they look at themselves, and it just keeps kind of cycling forward. Yeah.
Do you think that some of the greatest music comes from places of deep emotional pain? You have examples of artists who die very young from substance abuse or self-inflicted wounds, like Elliott Smith. And I found often that sometimes some of my favorite artists are in deep, deep emotional pain or turmoil at the time of recording their albums. Do you find that to be true?
I think it's a dangerous idea. I think very often, kind of like the artist culture gets kind of stuck in the idea that I have to suffer for my art. Like you look at like the Visions by Grimes, and like she starved herself and was on a bunch of
Did she really?
Of opiates, and she's like, I'm never gonna do that again. But like that was her thing. She's like, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and just went to this horrible place. And she's like, it was terrible for me.
Wow.
And so you can kind of get caught in that idea that like you need this. But I think also like part of being like a really good like for music, for like a songwriter, is like being able to imagine other circumstances, right? And like you don't have to have your heart broken or meet or like fall in love to write a great breakup or love song. That's like, and that's what I really like about the songs we do. We're writing from outside perspectives. If it's good practice for that, of being like, okay, what happens if I'm really happy in life and I want to, and I want to write these songs, But yeah, I there definitely is like a common correlation between people who make really, really good art and like having some like shit wrong with them,
Right.
But they're not mutually exclusive, I guess, Right. And maybe it's because like a lot of people that have a lot of shit going on really are desperate for a way to express that and to find some therapeutic ways to deal with it.
Right.
But yeah, I think I just said it's a dangerous thought to be like, I must suffer to make great art.
The tortured artist. It's a very romanticized idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary that you suffer to make good art.
Yeah.
But there is obviously some correlation, like you said, where
that, laptop charger icon. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, that's okay. There is, though, I think clearly some correlation with people who have suffered greatly and people who have made great art. And I think you're right, though, but the idea that like you have to be is dangerous, because I think you will get people, and like I think even I've experienced this, where you start doing things because you feel like like you need to make good art, or something like that. Kind of like what you said about Grimes.
It's also like a common thing, not even just of like emotional things, but like in terms of like drugs and music.
Yeah.
That like you need the drug to make a music. Like I can only write good music when I'm high.
Right.
Like
yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Like that idea.
Yeah.
That it's like that you need that thing, and it's just it's a dangerous. Yeah.
I've certainly found people falling into that trap. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I mean, I was like, if I'm being completely honest, like we were talking about coding earlier, and like a big reason that I wanted to try it was because I really liked The Weeknd, and he made really good music that I liked, and that was a big part of it.
And
I
used
thought,
a lot of coding.
yeah, and I thought that
if I drink codeine, I will turn in.
Yeah,
to The Weeknd.
that in some way I'll be able to write.
Oh
like
yeah,
him.
definitely.
Yeah.
Right,
And-
there is, not to quote Macklemore, but I am going to. But he has that song about his codeine addiction, and he's like, all the dope. He's like, he has a line that's something along the lines of, all of my favorite rappers do it, and all of the people that I think make amazing music have tried it, and he's like, so I should try it too, because who knows?
Yeah.
But he's white and he's telling you not to do it.
Yeah.
'Cause he's a good guy.
Because he's a good guy.
Hey guys, don't do coding, please.
You know what I think? Will Smith needs to release another album. Definitely.
Definitely.
We
Definitely.
need some wholesome rap.
With some wholesome Will Smith rap
Wholesome
music.
Father Smith.
And get
rap
Jaden on the
fathers.
track, just reading his Twitter or like poetry. Just Jaden Smith reading poetry. Our shoes, our feet, our eyes real. That's just some of the stuff that kid says, man. Just what that must be like growing up. But not to get too far off track, I think that's important that we address that. And I'm glad I asked you guys this question because I feel like there is sometimes the expectation of being a tortured artist. And Grimes probably in a certain respect felt the need to starve herself and to do the opioid stuff because she's like, if I can channel my pain into creative direction, I can make an amazing album.
Yeah.
I think, something I think we're kind of touching on here is like, I don't know, music really affects people. And I think that I don't know, how do I want to say this? Like, I think we have this idea that like art is art and that it kind of, you can indulge in it and kind of just have it be separate from your life and not let it kind of bleed into your real life. But I don't really know if that's true. And you think about, like, Vince Staples talks about this where I think his brother died from a Xanax overdose, right?
Just last year.
Yeah. And in an interview, he said, like, it's because he listened to rap where rappers were talking about doing Xanax and stuff because 2 years ago, Xanax still existed, but he didn't know what it was because it wasn't ubiquitous in the hip-hop culture. And I'm not saying that's bad or good, but that there should be this sort of consciousness as to what you're putting out and how you're portraying it.
So
Yeah.
I think the real question here is ketamine Carl going to be a problem in making kids do
You guys gotta
ketamine?
be careful about gotta be careful about what you're representing on the album. Yeah. No, but I remember, even listening to, there's that Milky Chance song that everyone knows, where yeah.
Every-
Stoned in paradise, and then but even when I hear that, like it triggers this part of my brain that's like, I want to go get stoned, dude. Like I want to
Yeah.
go,
Totally.
I want to be stoned in paradise. Yeah. Like,
I honestly never realized that's what he was saying. I always thought it was stolen paradise. Life is-
Yeah, I
maybe
thought
it is
that's-
stolen paradise.
I
Maybe
thought it
I'm a
was stolen.
junkie, dude. Maybe I need to check myself.
But
in.
no, I get you. Like, I mean, when I listen, like one of my favorite bands is Tame Impala, and like I'm always like,
like psych rock.
yeah, dude. But like I listen to that and like I want to write that. I'm like, I should smoke some weed to do this.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I'm guilty of doing that a lot. And like,
Right.
I mean, but you don't need it. Like I kind of like, it's easy to get in that head. It's like when you get in a creative rut, it can be like, oh, duh, I'm not high.
Right. Yeah.
Of course.
Duh.
But that's what's cool about like working with other people, especially like this group, is that like I'm never like feel that way.
No.
Right. You don't feel the pressure.
I'm
that
never
you need.
whenever playing, I'm like, guys, I think we need to be fucked up right now for this to work. I mean,
Yeah.
but granted, sometimes great things happen. I mean, like one of the
Totally.
songs off our first EP, Josh and I just wrote. We just got drunk one night and we're like, we're gonna write a song, and that's just kind of what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just like it's really nice knowing that it's not necessary,
Right.
and that like, because all this stuff that I'm really proud of and like that I think is some of my best work, it's like it was just me.
Yeah.
Sober.
Yeah. There's a famous interview with from Cage the Elephant. So it's the two brothers. So it's obviously Matt on vocals, and then the lead guitarist, I've forgotten his name, but he basically said, because Matt has taken on this rock star persona because he's the lead singer, and so and they didn't have like, I guess this is pure speculation, but maybe not the best relationship growing up. But he's like, me, I basically need to get high to be around him so we can write a song. And it's just like, holy
Jeez.
shit! But you make amazing music, so I mean, I guess keep
Yeah.
doing it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the whole thing with Fleetwood Mac when they were recording Rumors. They were literally at the end of the
Yeah.
rope. Everyone was falling
They were-
apart.
yeah.
The relationships in the band
Yeah.
were falling apart. They all wanted to kill each other. And the producer was like, if you can just put all that shit aside. I know you guys hate each other. I know this is falling apart and you guys will never speak to each other after this. But if you can put all of that aside and just record this album, it's going to be amazing. Because I felt like they took that kinetic energy into the studio with that fucking Stevie Nicks, players only love you when they're playing. You know, she's probably like Lindsay Buckingham's on the other side of the studio. But there's so many like beautiful and heartbreaking songs in there.
Do you know that they did a voting system for that?
A voting system.
Where like what they would do is they would bring in songs, and then the band would just like vote what they wanted to keep.
Wow.
And the song that about
Dreams.
No, about her miscarriage or.
Oh. Yeah. What is that called?
It's the name of it was the name of the child. Or was it? It was a miscarriage and abortion. I don't.
Okay.
remember.
I'll search it while you're talking about it.
But she wrote that song and brought it in, and they voted no on it. Like they're like, we don't want this on the album, and then she fought for it and it made it on. But like,
Damn.
I mean, that's how much like they were at each other's ends. That like she wrote this heartbreaking song about her child that is not gonna be alive, and they're like, no, we don't want it.
Yeah. Jeez.
So she had to like fight tooth and nail kind of to keep it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Which is like a really brutal way of like a band working, being like, hey, here's this really powerful piece from me that I wrote. And they're like, yeah, we're good.
The name of the song is Sarah, by the way.
Sarah. Yeah.
So is the name of gonna be the name of the child?
Yeah.
I feel like so you know, on the one end we talked about pain is not necessary to have a good album or a good art piece, and I think we all agree on that. But I think also sometimes really amazing pieces can come from areas of immense
It certainly
pain.
has a place
Right
in art.
Oh yeah.
But you shouldn't go seeking it intentionally.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think if you seek it intentionally, that like voids the
That's
potency of it.
Yeah,
right,
totally.
right. I'm
It's
gonna
not
get
genuine.
drunk and break up with my girlfriend
Yeah,
and write
like-
a fucking amazing album. Fuck, hey baby.
Yeah, like you look at like Sufjan Stevens. He's like, yeah, my mom died. I can write this really sad album now. It's like, you know, like stuff like that comes naturally. I think, or okay, not always, because like, you know, drug addiction, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think when artists like write something that's very, very good and sad, it's
Right.
partially really good just because it feels so genuine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only get addicted to drugs if it's genuine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Sufjan I think is a really good
Surf jams.
Surf jams.
Surf
I
jam,
think
jam.
surf jams. I think he's a really good example, Sufjan Stevens, because he had a horrible childhood. You know, of just his parents. You know, essentially abandoned him. They left him. What was it?
Yeah, when his mom became schizophrenic and abandoned him with his stepdad, right?
Yeah.
And his stepbrother, right? Or his
No.
I don't know.
Oh
Wish I could
God,
ask
I don't
him.
want to.
But it's pretty
I'm
sad.
pretty
and
sure- yeah,
fucked up.
it's yeah.
So basically, he had a really, really rocky childhood. His mom felt like she couldn't take care of him, and
Yeah.
then so he and they tried to reconnect towards the end of her life, and it just didn't end up.
Yeah, she died.
There was not enough time
as
to
as they were like beginning to like rekindle the relationship.
and I think that is really sad.
Yeah.
But it's translated into the album so well, which he named Carrie and Lowell, which were his biological parents' names.
Lowell's a stepdad.
Lowell's,
right?
yeah,
Lowell's
so
his
I think
stepdad.
he ended up living with his like dad, I think, but
Oh, really?
he maintained a good relationship with his stepdad because
Okay.
Lowell is fun fact, the head of
Of his record label,
Sufjan's
right?
record label.
Oh
yeah.
wow, okay, that's
And but like
amazing.
things like that, like it's a very, very tragic story, but like I think we also do listen to it for that story,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's where like it comes in, like the pain not being necessary, because a good writer could also imagine and write that story.
Mhm.
Right.
That's where I think the Mount Erie album sort of like kind of, if you throw that into the mix, it kind of, I don't know how, like I think that's so true for like nearly everything, but like when I hear that album, it's like it's the like I don't think it's meant for like entertainment at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
you know. And
Well,
it's,
yeah. And that
So,
that'd
I
be
don't
a
know, that's
different
a completely rare case.
if
I
somebody
don't know
wrote
why
that
I'm bringing
album
it
and it
in,
was
but
fiction, it would
it would
be done differently and it would
Yeah.
feel different.
and it would have a
Mhm.
different significance.
But like the fact that you know it's real and you
Yeah.
know this
Yeah.
is actually happening
yeah.
completely changes the context of
Right.
it.
And I don't think I think that that album in particular, like there's something about the fact that you know, like you were saying, like the fact that you know that it's true, that I I don't think you could write an album with the same kind of gravity
Yeah.
without what
Right.
really happened. You
Oh,
could
not at
try.
all,
You
yeah.
know, like you could definitely get close, but I think the fact that he's letting you in to the most private part of his life, like, hits you like a truck. You know, that's
Yeah.
why it works. Yeah. I mean, I think music, it kind of the way that it works is like it plays off your capacity for empathy, and you I mean, for me, like the albums that I think are the most moving to me, like I feel like I literally feel the way that the other person who wrote it felt. Like I didn't experience what they went through. Like if we're talking about, like, we go back to the Sufjan Stevens album, like my mom didn't have schizophrenia and abandon me and then, you know, die before I really had to have a relationship with her. But like I still draw on other things from my own life that make me feel in a similar way. And
Right.
that's why I think we love it,
Right.
because, like I think you said, like, you know, music is this conversation, and I think it's just interesting because you just listen to someone, you don't have your own input, and it just
Right.
washes
Mhm.
over you, and then you just get sad or
Yeah,
happy or
it's
whatever.
That was a
Yeah.
really interesting quote that I read about. This is particular about novels, but the author said, and I forget who it was, but he basically, 1,000 people will read this novel, and it's going to be 1,000 different novels for
Yeah.
1,000
Mhm.
different people.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's true. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. We'll let you guys get to recording. What
Woohoo.
songs are you gonna work on today?
We're working on Come and Go and Terry Sharper.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Come and Go I really like, just based on the little that I've heard. And that's a riff that he's been kicking around for a long time.
Yeah.
And, could never find words to, so I'm glad it's finally getting used because that's a beautiful riff. All right, guys, is there anything you want to plug? Any show, like house shows, anything?
When is this gonna be released?
This one, probably a week.
May 19th.
May 19th.
125 South Ashley. I'm giving my address. Fuck you, Riley.
Perfect.
Laughingstock and Steph's punk band.
Yeah.
Laughingstock. You can find Laughingstock on SoundCloud, Spotify, Bandcamp, iTunes.
Google Play.
The
Google
Spotify
Play.
picture is not correct.
Also,
It
there's
thinks that
like
we're a
5
band
other
from
albums
Austin,
from the
Texas.
90s on it.
Okay, perfect. I know you guys were riding in the womb a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Yes.
perfect. Okay, and then the physical release you're planning on Flatfield Records or
we
digital?
have no idea about
Okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Fall, yeah.
Beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And until next time, Buku South.
From the middle of the road where you've been spending all your time, I just wish that you would call. Wish there was something I